I believe that not being heard, there's also a piece of waiting, 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 and waiting to be heard. And when we get after 50, we're like, F this. I've been waiting for so long.
Did you push record?
Thanks for tuning into Our Second Act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life. Hey, Silka.
Hi, Paige. Paige, today we want to cover a topic that we actually did a video on that not too long ago, but we've since received so many comments and inquiries that this is a hot topic. It's also all over the internet.
Always. Hot, 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 hot.
Yeah. And that is not being heard. Especially as we age or we feel like we're getting, becoming obsolete and being ignored. So I wanted to throw it back to you and let's do another take on being heard and, how you deal with this and see this in your client base.
It's hard. Every single one of us, including myself, goes through certain times in our life when we don't feel like we're not being heard. And then in our generation with our second active life, then it's, society not being heard. So the first thing that I want people to really think about is, how do you define what it means to be heard? Because everybody has a different definition of being heard. So some people it's about, look, just be quiet and hear me. I'm good now. I just got to that. You might be in a time in your life where that's different, where you say, I not only need you to hear me, but I need you to say back to me what you heard and then have a conversation about the complexity of it or the emotion attached to it and sit in the space with me with that. There's also another thing of, I need to be heard and not need to say it 18 times. Like, when are you going to hear it and it's going to stick? So these are three things that we didn't talk about the last time because we're getting into a little bit, delving a little bit deeper about what does being heard feel like, look like, what do you need from it? So I'll just pause there for a second, Silka, and tell me what you think or what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, no, I think that what I wanted to throw out, one of the reasons this is so important, and I guess most people equate this, but not being heard, when you feel like you're ignored or not being heard, it causes huge insecurities and just eats it. Your self-confidence just plummets.
Tanks.
It tanks, and we deal enough with that, especially women. There's all kinds of studies that show that immediately after 50, self-confidence just takes a nosedive. So that's why this topic is so important. That's what came up for me.
Me too, same thing. And, after you define what being heard looks like, start doing some journaling about where in your life have you not been heard. So take like a little pie chart and put down career, job, intimate relationship, friendships, family, colleagues. And don't start right here at the present moment. Go as far back as you possibly can to family of origin to start to see, okay, what's the theme? When did it begin? What am I still holding on to? Another piece that I've noticed of not being heard, and I see this with women all the time, is women are extremely tolerant and patient. Too much so, I believe, at times. So I believe that not being heard, there's also a piece of waiting, waiting, waiting. I'm waiting to be heard. I'm waiting. Someone tells me yes, they'll do this, they'll do this. I'm waiting, I'm waiting, I'm waiting. And when we get after 50, we're like, F this. I've been waiting for so long. So, that's a big thing that I want our viewers to kind of look at if you're going to journal down and write your notes of, through your life, when you've seen you haven't been heard, have you also been waiting and been so patient? Because there's a spectrum. This end of the spectrum, you can be waiting to be heard, waiting to be waiting. And then the other side of, F you, this is, sorry, F you, this is how I feel, I'm coming at. And then you have to somewhere go in the middle of, okay, I've been on both sides of the spectrum. Now, where am I? So I just have seen this connected together all the time, and I don't think people are talking about it out loud. So you can tell me what you think about that, Silka.
No,
Because you're
yeah.
nodding and smiling and
Well, I'm laughing. I can identify with so much of it. I'm so patient.
me
I
too.
wait and I don't speak up for myself because and I don't want to make it all about women. I mean, it is a huge issue for women. That I know, and I think it
For
also
men. Yeah.
contributes to the divorce rate, or why women file for divorce more so than men do, especially later in life, which is a whole other topic that is blowing
Yes.
up on our side with men. I mean, that also eats at their self confidence. A man not being heard, right?
Oh, absolutely. And what's hard is, you know, our generation and beyond was never taught the skills of the communication
Mm-hmm.
and being able to get connected to your emotional side. And men struggle with that all the time. So when you have a person who's emotionally connected and one that's not, that's really hard. So you've got one person coming in this way trying to be heard, one person coming in this way trying to be heard, and they're bringing all their baggage from life. And it just gets really hard. That's why you have to really take ownership and responsibility for what parts of you, male or female, that you're bringing to the table of why you're not being heard and have ownership from it. And I'd like to say something else that's really important. If
Sure.
that's okay there, Silka. There will always be multiple times that you do everything you can to be heard, you follow the right way, you're doing all your journaling, and the other person, this is just the way they are. Whether it's your family member, your significant other, a friend, a colleague, and then you have to make a choice. And the choice is, does this still work for me? Does it compromise me? Or can you go into a place of not being attached to the outcome? And that is a really high vibrational, spiritual kind of walk, to not be attached to what the outcome is, as long as it's not compromising your soul, compromising who you are. So it's really something to think about, and it's on a whole other deeper level.
I think that is excellent. I think, not that I'm, have all this high spiritual behavior, but to me that it's like you don't have to take action on, because I get in situations where, I'm just not being heard. Ooh, no, kind of builds.
Yeah.
But it would be worse if I said something, and if I really just take a deep breath and think about it, it's not that important. It's more my ego than my life that's being hurt here. So I think that's really good that you brought that up. That just because you can do all this and understand it, you don't have to take action, or you can determine, how important it is to take action, like you said, if you're not hurting
Or what
yourself.
the action would look like. But I think it's really important to practice not being attached to outcomes, because all right, we want to be heard, we want to be heard. Oh, he or she is just not. Wait, how come they're not listening to me? And you have to stop and go, why do I need to be heard so much, so powerfully? What is this about? What is this about? And we're living in a world and a time where everybody's wanting to be heard and no one's being heard, and it's frenetic, and no one's stepping back and going, wait a minute, let me do the inner work. And what is this really about? So it's really something to think about, and it's work that we all need to do. I believe daily. I mean, I work on this as much as I can, daily, because it's so important.
Yeah, no, I get it. Well, we're coming to the end. I think, the this, like I said, we wanted to touch on this point again in this segment because,
Yeah.
as you just said, it is so important and plays such a huge part in our interactions with others and our self confidence and how we feel about ourselves. So, if anything else, Paige.
Yes, here's my closing thoughts. So we talked about being heard in relationships of all kinds. When we're after 50, how do we be heard in a societal norm where they don't want us to be heard? And that's where a lot of the spiritual growth and non-attachment comes into play of, do I need to be heard? Is in my current life, in my space of where I am I getting things fulfilled? Am I enough of with who I am? Am I enough in my world? Do I need to have societal norms say, do this, do that? So that's my last word on that one.
Well, on that, then we will see you next time on our second act with Paige and Silka. And keep the comments coming. We love these.
Yes. for your second active life.
If you haven't already done so, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. The button is right over here. Just click on through to YouTube. When you see the little bell right next to the subscribe button, hit that too, and we'll notify you every time we post a new video. See you next time.